A Parent's Guide to Screening. The why. A multi-tiered system of supports, shown here in this layered triangle, is an educational framework based as much in common sense as it is research. Kids learn differently, at different paces, and need different amounts and types of instructional and social opportunities to learn effectively. A one-size-fits-all school system will certainly leave many students in the dust. So a multi-tiered system of supports is a framework that helps schools and districts plan in advance to meet the different needs of different kids effectively. How will we do that? Tiers. The green base of the triangle is what we call Tier 1. One way to think about Tier 1 is school, classes, and social opportunities like you and I remember it. All students receive general education instruction, with the school doing its best to meet the needs with academic, social, emotional, and behavioral curriculum. But it is a statistical fact and common sense that some kids will need something more or different to be successful. Again, education, just like our children, is not one size fits all. The yellow additional layer provided in addition to the green Tier 1 that all students receive is called Tier 2. Tier 2 represents interventions and enrichment that are targeted to student needs in small groups, to preventatively address small gaps and close them, or for students who have mastered skills, this small group time could be used for enrichment. Having a Tier 2 doesn't mean there is something wrong with your child, like a deficit. It only means they learn differently in this particular area, say reading, math, or pro-social behavior, and that we, the school, will do something different to meet these groups' needs. Research also says approximately 2 to 5% of students will need even more than Tier 1 and Tier 2, making the Tier 3 the most individualized and intensive. By this level, it's a highly student-centered, multidisciplinary team-based approach that will systematically find what works for our most complex students. And it will document findings in an intervention plan, a 504 plan, or an individualized education plan. A multi-tiered systems of support helps schools organize their limited resources into systems that strive to be proactive in addressing needs, so every student gets what they need to be successful. For some students, Tier 1 might be enough. For others, more might be needed, and this can even vary from year to year or between academics and behavior or social skills. The MTSS framework begins with what we call screening. Screening is not a new concept to us. As parents, our newborns have many screening assessments done on them for metabolic syndromes, genetic abnormalities, and then there's sight and hearing at well-child visits. As adults, we too have screenings regularly, for example, cancer screenings like mammograms and colonoscopies, as well as screening for the world of work or for renting an apartment. Screening is a very common process in many fields that is built on the premise of prevention. We understand that sometimes things in life can go wrong, just like in education, and we strive to regularly watch for flags that indicate we could need something addressed and to do so early. Screening at school is no different. Like the previous examples, it is done periodically with all children, usually 2 to 3 times a year, fall, winter, and spring. It represents a snapshot in time, since children do grow and change constantly. Its purpose is to proactively and preventatively assess if students are meeting a level that research shows would indicate future success, called benchmarks, or if they are below or above that and therefore in need of something more or something different to prevent poor outcomes or less than adequate growth. Another use for screening data is at the grade level, school, or district level to evaluate how well our teaching practices and tools are working for students overall, as well as for groups of students. This is similar to when nationally we look at child screen data and note that we have a childhood obesity epidemic. Such data should yield nationwide campaigns and policies. A school district could do the same thing. Sometimes the school screening data shows all kids need something more or different from what they are getting because too many are not meeting the benchmark. This tool, screening, like in the medical examples, would need to have research behind it and would have to give consistent results measuring for what we are trying to measure, in this case, reading or math skills. It also needs to be fast and efficient for regular use. Once a student completes a screening assessment, grade level data is automatically compiled and it looks like this. As a parent, we don't necessarily see this data, but your administrators, principals, and teachers do, and they use this to reflect on how their current curriculum and practices are working. Each vertical bar is a student's score, and the colors relate to where the student's score falls in percentiles. These groups reflect the level of support the child might need. See how the colors look like our triangle on the first slide? Green show that they're getting their needs met in general education, while yellow and red should get additional supports. Also, teachers can access these levels to plan their class instruction according to the information. Again, we as parents can't see this since it has student-specific information and there's privacy, but teachers can use this data for simple things like who should sit close to the teacher for added checks or support, or which students we should put together in pairs for certain activities. To meet the needs proactively of all students, this one assessment gives a lot of valuable information. We hope you can now understand why we screen. It's a part of a framework that helps us meet the needs of all learners. That's also why screening and a multi-tiered system of support framework, or MTSS, is referenced in a variety of state regulations public schools must comply with. It's best practice. Thank you for all that you do for your child. We greatly appreciate your partnership.